Good afternoon. We see the first cracks in the housing market here this year in 2021. A bit of a slower week, to be honest with you, in data side of it, as well as market movements. But get ready because next week is overload. So we're going to talk about all this here today. My name is Brandon Steele. I'm a financial advisor with Mainsail Financial Group in Bellevue, Washington. And our goal is just bring you the market news, the updates, the trends, the strategies, all in a quick, digestible video every single week. Obviously, to weed out the stuff that doesn't matter. If I'm saying something like a slow week, that's probably very fair to say. And just bring you the stuff that really actually will help, I guess, weed out all the noise we all hear in the media. So hopefully this is helpful. Please do follow us, subscribe, whatever it takes to catch up each week, and we will continue to bring this to you as long as it's helpful. Here we are. We're right before Memorial Weekend, so I hope everybody is gearing up for kind of a nice holiday weekend. It's supposed to be pretty nice in the Seattle area, so hopefully you're getting out for a trip. I know a lot of people have had all their vaccinations and things are opening back up, so let's hope you can enjoy this weekend and the kind of start of summer here. Again, this week, to be completely honest with you, was pretty dang boring. So I don't have a whole lot to report on this week. There was not a whole lot of data. And for those who follow the markets were about as flat as they get for the week. There was not a lot of movement, not a lot of trading, not a lot of anything going on this week. And part of that may be because what's coming up next week. So get ready. I'm going to share more about that here in a bit. But honestly, this week didn't have a whole lot. We did start to see the first kind of like cracks in the housing market. And that doesn't mean a bad thing for the housing market, but it does mean that the data in the housing market has just been through the roof. I mean, it's just been crazy. And finally, we saw existing home sales at about 5.85 million, which was slightly less than expected. And we saw Tuesday, I believe it was, new home sales at 863,000, a little bit more than the 960 or so thousand that were expected there. So it doesn't mean the housing market is doomed, but this is the first time we've really seen any sort of negative data points come through on the housing, even through all this COVID craziness. On Tuesday, we also had consumer confidence come out. It was pretty much in line with expectations, still pretty high, which was interesting to see, as just a couple weeks ago, it started to really pull back on those inflation concerns. So that was interesting, but get ready because with what we've got coming up here next week and the following, it's very likely that may change pretty quickly. And then just today on Thursday, we had initial jobless claims come out. The number was 406,000 versus about 525,000 expected. So good news there. We are still trending in the right direction. You might remember, I think it was 2 weeks ago, was the first time we were under 500,000 since COVID kind of picked up, since that all really started to work its way through the system. So that's good news, and that trend is still coming down. So hopefully that continues and people are getting back to work. Now, next week, get ready. So first off, we have a short week next week. Monday is closed for Memorial Weekend, so hopefully you guys can enjoy that. But we have a crazy amount of data. So actually, we have income numbers coming out. We have spending coming out. We have inflation, which is the big one that I mentioned earlier. So that'll be interesting to see. And then on top of that, we have the ADP employment report, and we have the non-farms payroll. So get ready. I mean, it's going to be a lot of data starting tomorrow through really the latter part of next week. And in a short trading week, we only have Tuesday to Friday. Markets will be closed on Monday, so kind of pay attention to that as well. But that will definitely bring us a lot to talk about next Thursday when we see you. Before we break, I want to kind of jump to the question of the week. And unfortunately, this is a bit of a sad story and something that was close to us here with our group. We had brought on a new client and we're in the very beginning stages of helping them. This is somebody who did not have beneficiaries on their accounts. And so obviously that was one of the primary things we were helping with. However, unfortunately, she had unexpectedly passed during this period before we could get beneficiaries up to date. And unfortunately, this happens way more likely than I would like to admit. But it's important. And so the question of the week is, what happens in that scenario? And the reason I want to bring this up is to pound my fist to please make sure your beneficiaries are up to date or at least named. In this case, unfortunately, and again, we just started working with her, otherwise we would have caught this way before, but she didn't have anybody named as beneficiaries. So what happens? She had some retirement accounts. She had a couple retirement vehicles out there that, again, had no named beneficiary. And essentially, when there is a beneficiary, what happens is that beneficiary very clearly is stated as the recipient of those funds. And the reason this is so important, especially with a retirement account, is because it allows you to keep the tax wrapper around that account intact. So, for instance, if you pass on a 401k or an IRA, for instance, to your spouse or kid or whoever it might be, they continue that account as an IRA. Now, different rules start to apply once that happens. For those who are familiar with the Secure Act, you can maybe take a look at our website for more information on that. But that changed a little bit how that recipient would have to take that money out. But nonetheless, it still keeps that tax wrapper intact. Now, if you do not have a beneficiary, the challenge is that kind of gets stripped away. So what actually has to happen is the 401k company, the IRA company, whoever it is, can't make a check out to a beneficiary, right? They have to make a check out to the estate of the decedent, to the person who passed away. So what that means is that check is distributed as cash, basically, not keeping the tax wrapper around it. And when that happens, when that money officially goes to whoever it goes to, which is another challenge, but I'll get to that here in a minute, they will have to pay taxes on that if it is a pre-tax 401k or IRA. So this creates a big tax bill, especially for, the good savers out there. If you have a good amount saved in your 401k or IRA, it's going to create a large tax bill for the family on something that, could be avoided with just making sure we have beneficiaries in place. The second thing is now that's got to go through the probate process. So luckily, if you have a will, that may help a little bit, but nonetheless, it's going to have to get through the court system to figure out who gets what and how that's divvied up. And again, even after that, we're probably going to be looking at some pretty large tax bills. So I say all this, hopefully that is helpful to understand how this process works. But I say all this to say, please update your beneficiaries, and to take all this away and say, if you do have the right beneficiary named, this process is much simpler. What happens in that case is the beneficiary is named on the account, and basically the IRA 401k can cut a check to create an inherited IRA for that particular person. So it's really important, and I know we talk about it a lot, but unfortunately it hit a little close to home here recently, and so I wanted to make sure to kind of touch on it and hopefully help you avoid those challenges that we're seeing right now. So very good question of the week here this week. Very good, not a good scenario, but a good opportunity to make sure to kind of get that word out there. But please do reach out. Hopefully this week's market update was helpful, and especially the question of the week. Reach out if you have any questions for us, and we'd be more than happy to kind of answer those in our question of the week each week, and make sure to kind of help get those questions answered in a very simple way to digest it. So you can email us directly, info@mainsailfg.com, or you can just comment below or reach out to us with a direct message and let us know what's on your mind. Thanks so much. You guys all have a great Memorial weekend, and we will see you next week.